Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FloTrack podcast presented by wonderful Pistachios. I am Liv Ekpone, joined with Ashley Tishins and Corey Mall. You guys, I am so pumped for this weekend. Guess what happens this weekend?
I have no clue what's happening this weekend.
Oh, my goodness. Penn Relays is going to be taking place at the University of Pennsylvania. We brought out the old hat from last year.
Yep.
It's just... Gosh, last year was your first time at Penn.
It was, yes.
Describe the experience, Ashley.
See, I think going into it, y'all hyped it up like really well. And for me, it's like, it's a track. Like, I know it's a historic track meet, but you don't really get to experience full Penn Relays and understand what it is until you're actually there. Like, you don't hear that sort of roar from a crowd anywhere else at any other track meet that I've ever been to in my life. And it's just like a whole nother vibe. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
Totally a vibe.
So pumped. Corey, how about for you? What are you looking forward to? You've been there a handful of years. So what is the big thing that you're looking forward to the most?
Just peak track and field, peak audience, peak environment, people who understand the sport and are coming to watch the meet.
Love it. All right, before we get into all the things Penn Relays, we have some other things to discuss. We're going to talk about some of the top performances from the weekend. Lots of records fell from all different levels. National high school records, U20 American records, world records fell. Woo, so we're about to get into all of it. Let's first start off with the Xiamen Diamond League. Mondo Duplantis, our guy, breaks the world record not once, not twice, not three times, the 8th time. He does it again. Like, what is stopping Mondo? How do we stop this guy, first of all? Is there a way to stop him?
There may not be a way. I mean, I think of, a lot of the performances from the Xiamen Diamond League. Mondo's obviously stands out since he breaks another world record again, cleared 6:24 to increase his world record by a centimeter. This guy, like, he has a system, right? Like, every time he's going to try to increase that world record by just a little bit. So every time he can claim so many world records. That's why he's, cleared it, 8 times now. But I think what's more impressive to me is that this is his opener. It is April, the first meet of the season in the Diamond League, and he goes out there and he breaks a world record, which then it makes you put into perspective, like, what can we see from him out down the line, especially because if you look at that clearance that he had, I mean, he had like a good foot above the bar. Like, he cleared that easily, So I think now it's just a matter of, as the season goes along, can we see him break it how many more times, honestly?
It's ridiculous to even think about this 24-year-old just doing amazing things right now. And I had a chance to listen to his post-race interview, and he mentioned, like, he's never competed here. He didn't know what the environment was like, but he was grateful for the fans that were there. They kind of helped him to get through it. He's like, I felt the wind too, which a lot of people kind of don't think about when you're thinking about pole vault, but the wind was definitely there. And as Ashley, you mentioned, it looks so effortless, especially in your season debut. Typically, you're starting to see some people shake the rust off, but for Mondo, it's just another day at the office.
And I think he only took four attempts, right, at the, 4 jumps in total for the whole competition. So it's like, I mean, yeah, easy day in the office for him. Set a world record, just jump 4 times. Like, that's the thing, too. It's like, it's not like he really stressed himself to try to get to that. I mean, he can easily just be like, hey, we get it done and time for the next meet, honestly.
What do you think goes through his mind when he's on that runway, potentially breaking another world record? Like, do you think he thinks about, okay, this is going to be my 9th time if I do this?
Do you think that goes through his mind? You gotta think it's, like, kind of comes more easily to him, right? Like, I mean, when you do it that many times, like, do you get desensitized to it some? I don't know. But at the same time, though, you see how anytime he breaks a world record, if you see how he reacts, like, he's into it. Like, I think that's the other thing that makes it so entertaining, right? Like, he could easily be one that clears a world record, just kind of shrugs his shoulders and just moves on. But I mean, he's always, like, interacting with the crowd. He loves and feeds off the crowd energy. He's jumping up and down. Like, I think that makes it even more entertaining almost.
Corey, were you surprised by this at all?
Well, no. To your question on what he thinks on the runway, I think for someone like him, you have to clear your mind. You have to have a blank slate. I mean, if you are thinking about other things that can distract you, I think that takes away from your actual attempt. So, like, for him, he's kind of at such a high level, he could go in there, and I feel like he just clears everything away, and it's like a blank slate every time, new time he goes up on the runway and goes up on the bar. He's incredible. Progression chart, 2020, 6.18, 2021, 6.10, 22, 6.21, 23, 6.23, 24, 6.24. He's 24 years old. Do we think that Mondo is now in the peak of his career? Does he have a few years until he gets to that peak?
It's hard to say.
I know that's a great question. I feel like we're just getting started. Honestly.
I think that's the crazy thing to think about. He's still, I mean, not much older than me. Like, he's still very young.
Yeah.
I don't know. But also, pole vault does take a lot of wear and tear on your body. So it's like how, I mean, I don't think this is his peak at all. I guess it's just a question of, like, when does he hit his peak?
The ceiling. When does he hit the ceiling?
When does he hit it?
I don't even know if I can say. I have no clue.
It's a hard question because obviously he's doing world record things right now. But from that 24-year-old, age bracket, kind of up until what, 28, maybe up to 30? Maybe is this a marathoner's legacy? Like, are we doing this into our 30s? Like, I think it's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. I feel like I mentioned, I feel like we're just getting started, still young in the sport. And I think every time we see him compete, you can still see the passion coming out of it. Like, he's very, as you mentioned, when he breaks a world record or when he gets that really big jump, he's celebrating with excitement.
Yeah.
And for some athletes, I don't know if they wouldn't feel as excited. They're like, okay, cool, another world record. But I still feel like he's striving for those goals, which keeps him still wanting more.
Yeah, and I think
keep going.
I think we obviously, I think this is kind of worth mentioning too. Is like, I mean, obviously you see him. He's broken it like 8 times. He's increasing it only a centimeter every time. But there's obviously reasons to this. Like, I think he's doing this realistically for, I'm sure, financial reasons. Like, you get that bonus every time. I'm sure that you clear the world record, whatever that bonus is in his contract or whatever. So he's doing it about it a smart way too. And like, if he, trying to make the bag and then trying to still put together some really cool efforts.
Well, we talked about the actual leap too. He was over it by a significant margin, so it's not like this is like he's barely eclipsing the bar.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's just going after it still. Now, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, what do you think his nickname is?
Without looking at my notes.
Yeah.
Wait, I think I saw this.
Does he have a nickname?
I feel like he does. Didn't I see like Prince
of the Sky?
No. Prince of Pole Vault. I think I saw something with
Prince of Pole Vault? It's interesting.
Oh, I just looked at the notes, and I have heard one of these before.
You have? Okay.
The Flying
Swede. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
Are these other ones, did you just make them up on the fly?
Yeah, I did.
You just made them up.
Why don't you share it with us?
Galactic Flyman.
Galactic.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
World champion, Olympic. Come on now. Galactic. Universally, who else is pole vaulting like him in the universe?
That just sounds a little weird.
Nobody.
Galactic.
Sky King. That sounds like a tire salesman,
Sky King.
Yeah, I like these.
I kind of like Galactic though.
I don't know.
Ashley's not feeling. Which one are you feeling?
Let's go with the Flying Swede.
Well, do you have one in mind?
No. Do you know? I don't make nicknames like
That's
that.
true.
That's Corey.
That's my game.
Yeah.
That's a Corey thing. Well, at the same meet, let's take it to the track. Let's talk about this 200 because quite interesting things came about from it. We saw 19-year-old Tori Lewis racing against Sha'Carri Richardson. Tori gets the upper hand. Ashley, what are our thoughts on this 200 meters?
Well, as I was watching this at like 6 a.m. in the morning on Saturday, I watched the 200 finish, and I was like, that was such a big upset. Like, I don't think anyone could have predicted that the 19-year-old Australian Tori Lewis would come in and beat Sha'Carri Richardson, the 100-meter world champion. Sure, there's some factors that go into this, right? Sha'Carri, she's making her season opener in the 200. Tori Lewis, she's in Australia. They have been in the midst of the outdoor season for quite some time. She was just coming off of the Australian Championships just a few days prior. So, I mean, she's very fresh. She's very fit. Like, she said in her post-race interview that, like, she wanted to take advantage of that a little bit. Like, have, since she has some meets underneath her belt, maybe get the upper hand on some of the pros that were debuting. And that's exactly what she did. I guess I just was not expecting. I mean, she got run down if you look at it. Like, I mean, Tori Lewis caught her at the line.
I am with you. I was kind of shocked by this. When we go 22.96 for the 19-year-old and then Sha'Carri Richardson, the defending 100-meter world champion, going 22.99, I must say it is April, season debut. just listening to Sha'Carri's post-race interview, she talks about how this is kind of late for her to be opening up during the season. She felt nervous, which is, I think, normal to be feeling, but she also felt at home, like just being able to step onto the track, getting back into competition. But she wanted to just focus on execution, and she also mentioned she is striving for making the U.S. Olympic team in that 100 and that 200. Right now, we have 2 months to figure that out, honey. Like, we got to get the wheels turning, and you know, I'm just thinking about like Gabby Thomas right now and how sharp and efficient she looked, especially just coming off of Texas Relays and what all she's doing. I think she ran the 400 at LSU this past weekend. I think did she go 50 point or 51 point?
Yeah.
Like Gabby looks strong right now. So we got 2 months to figure it out, and it's an Olympic year. So, you know, everybody is going to be on a whole nother level going to trials. So I guess that brings up the question. I want to ask this to both of you. Should we be worried about not necessarily Sha'Carri, but like we have some new up and coming stars, like Jacia Sears is a great example. Jamesia Ford, I don't know what Jamesia plans on doing at trials, doubling the 2 and the 4. I'm not quite sure, but she has the opportunity to potentially do both. Like, should we be worried about the newbies coming up in the sport and taking some spots?
I mean, if you're Sha'Carri, I think like based on how she reacted and, you know, how she approached this, I think for her, it's just more of like, let's get the dust off, like a rust buster, you know, almost like get that first meet out of the way. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a time to panic for her, for anyone really, again, because she's, you know, she's a world champion, right? Like you'd expect that she'll get back in top form. I mean, she's gone sub 22 before. I think 21.92 is her PR, and she did that at Worlds last year. So I think just for her, it's now just a, I mean, if you think about it, like some of these younger ones, they've already have a couple meets underneath their belt. You just got to almost like you have to stay in your own lane, probably, if you're Sha'Carri, right? You just got to focus on yourself, realize like, hey, this is what I need to work on. Go look at the film, see what you need to work on, and just go from there, probably. But I mean, I will say too, it's getting really crowded in the American sprint space too. So I will put that out there. Like it's one of those things where it's April, no need to panic yet, but there are plenty of people that I think are hungry and wanting to take those spots, especially in that 200.
Mm-hmm. Corey, what are your thoughts? Should we be worried?
I would not be worried now. I mean, I would be worried if she was running like this in May.
Yeah.
But as you said, you know, it is an opener at 200 meters. Last year, she opened at 200 meters the following week. Even though she had run the 100, you know, in April, she had opened her 200, you know, later last year. So, I mean, this is all about timing for the Olympic cycle, you know, and that's what matters. You have to time it correctly. I'm not worried about, you know, your first opener here and you lose, right? That's not the important piece of this. It's what are you doing as a result afterward and how are you getting better?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think about like just trials, you just never know what's going to happen. Just reflecting on last year, Messiah Russell sneaking in to get third in that 100 meters. I remember the previous Olympics, like Anna Cockrell edging out Shamir Little in the 400-meter hurdles. Like, you just never know what's going to happen. And both of those athletes were young. So it's just these up-and-coming stars, they know they're going to be in peak top shape going into trials just because they've been competing collegiately, also competing off of NCAAs. Like, think about NCAAs. They got a week and a half or so, and then they're coming right. I don't even know. Some of them are going to be staying in Eugene just because of the back and forth. But trials are coming up before we know it, and I agree with y'all. I'm not worried. I'm just like thinking it's pretty much the first week of May if you think about it. We just got to get the wheels turning a little bit more.
I will say Sha'Carri ran 10:75 in 2019 at NCAA Division I Outdoors. JCS is 10:77 right now.
Yeah.
So, like, if we're looking at parallels between the two, I would be watching JCS Sears right now.
Exactly.
Taking note of her.
I like that call out. Yeah, like, yeah, Jacia Sears of Tennessee went, I think, number 2 all time collegiately, again behind only Sha'Carri Richardson. It's only April. Like,
I know.
Come on. I think, yeah, there's a lot of people especially in the NCAA space, that we need to keep our eyes on.
And comments too here in the chat. Tamara Clark and Navia battle opened up faster at 200 meters. So what are your thoughts on?
And Navia looked really strong the first 150. Yeah. She was leading at one point, wasn't she, in that race?
I think so, but I think the chat's here saying that they raced in that one, but they've also ran faster earlier They've already
see.
ran, you know what I mean? So they already ran 22:21 and 22:56. So that could be, I mean, hey, Sha'Carri already beat them and they've already ran faster this season. So like, no need to panic, probably.
No need to panic.
Yeah.
As Corey mentioned, we can start panicking in May. We'll be a month out, but we still have time to sharpen things up. And again, the nerves were there. So now I feel like once you get that race underneath your belt, you can kind of just like focus on the other things that you need to focus on. Speaking of other great matchups, this was the race that I was waiting for. I was texting Ashley over the weekend because Courtney Lindsay has officially entered the chat. We had a 200-meter race with Tobogo in Kenya. Goodness gracious. Ashley, just that race. What is the biggest takeaway that we can take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, so the two, Courtney Lindsay and Letsile Tobogo, they went head to head, as you mentioned, in Nairobi at the Continental Tour Gold Meet there. And when I tell you this race, it was a race. Like if you watch the video, it's just so interesting how it played out, right? You see Lindsay shoots out of the blocks like a rocket. Like, I mean, he took the turn really well. Tobogo kind of sat back. Like he did not run that turn with a lot of force, I feel like, and he tried to play catch up in that final 100. And while he was able to catch up to him, he still wasn't able to get the win. They both run 1971, but it's Lindsay who beats him by thousandths of a second. And I mean, that's now a new world lead for Courtney Lindsay again, and he's just a year removed from the NCAA. He won, I believe, it was the 100 meters last year at NCAA Outdoors. So this guy, I gotta say, like, I think this is one where maybe people were not expecting Courtney Lindsay to get off to such a great start.
Yeah.
But now, hey, he's the world leader. 1971's no joke. Like, I think he's someone we need to keep our eyes on.
I agree with you there. I don't think anybody had their eyes on Lindsay. Everyone's Tobogo after what he's done, rightfully so, leading up to this point, getting world best. And the way that he looked in the season opener, running a 19.94 into a negative win. And we talked about this the other show. It looked like he was jogging the first 100 meters. And then I saw some comments on social media where they were like, he negative split the 200, which I felt like that's what he did. He got out, chilled the first 100 meters, and then just decided to sprint. And we kind of saw that a little bit here in Kenya. And I just think, like you said, the power was not there. So I feel like I'm not counting Tobogo out at all. I know you have him for Olympic gold. That's what we're rooting for here.
I guess.
I'm like, Tobogo, let's go. I had one of my friends from social media also saw this race, and he's like, yeah, we're cheering for Tobogo right now. So again, not concerned.
I'll say though, I think Tobogo, honestly, I think he kind of disrespected Lindsay here, personally.
You think so?
Yeah, because he thought that he could just J-chill on the curve and catch him on the end. Lindsay has shown that he is a legit sprinter right now. Like, he's a legit 200-meter runner. Like, I get it, Tobogo, you're, a world medalist in this event, but, like, at some point, you gotta go out there. You gotta race him head on.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Lindsay did a great job of running the turn the way that he did and adding enough separation. Like, he actually ran a solid performance, and Tobogo, like you said, just trying to play catch up, probably underestimated his competitors in the field. So do you think there's still room in the tank for Tobogo? Like, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, like,
if he went all out.
If you look at that curve, no, he did not go all out. Like, there's no way. He looked way too relaxed in that curve. It's not like he, it's not like he just got off to a bad start and then had to play catch up. Like, I think it looked kind of purposeful to me, personally.
Okay, Corey, I want to toss it to you. What are your thoughts on Lindsay? And are we worried about Tobogo right now?
I have yes, he's legitimate. I think Lindsay obviously finished third at the outdoors last year, got to World Athletics Championships. I mean, he's clearly a guy we need to factor in. Yeah. But I offered this in the chat too. Where is Courtney Lindsay in the pecking order? Like, Tobogo is another conversation entirely on the world stage, but Lindsay in the U.S. pool right now, you have Lyles, Arian Knight, Fred Curley, Robert Gregory, Christian Coleman. Curley was the guy out last year from Lindsay. So do we really think Curley is going to be outside of him this year, right?
Oh, man.
It's such a hard...
That is a
because
hard
1971's great, but like...
But it's also April.
Exactly, and what's Curley going to do?
I don't know what Curley's going to do. There's, again, too many heavy hitters in the sprints right now.
I mean, okay, if you look at the pecking order, right? Like, I think it's obviously Lyle's Knighton 1-2. Like, they've earned that,
Gotta write this
and
down. Okay.
you can't deny that. So that they go 1-2. I think right now I got to put Lindsay third just from what I've seen so far and what we've also seen from him in the past, even last year. Like, I think he's legit and he's proved that.
Yeah.
I mean, but also like Curly, he's only opened up.
Bednarik too. I forgot Bednarik.
Oh, and Kenny, how could we forget about Kenny B? He ran sub 10. Right now he's besides Christian Miller, he's the fastest American right now in the 100. How could I forget about Kenny B?
Kenny B, yeah. I was going to mention that too.
Okay, then maybe I got to put Kenny B and then Fred Curly. So if Curly's 5, Kenny B.
Curly's
Lindsay.
5?
I just got to wait to see something.
Wow.
I'm just saying. It's only April, guys. Come on, this can shuffle up a bit.
See, that's how hard this is, though, when you think about
yeah.
these conversations. You know, these competitions happen really kind of in a bubble in some senses, because once you get outside of it, then you have to think about the wider, wider dynamics of it. Personally, I would put Curly at 3.
See, I think I'm putting Kenny B right now because he's already gone. We've seen him. He's stretching himself. He's raced up. He's raced the 400 already a couple times. He basically jogged a 46. And then we've seen him do sub 10 in the 100. Like, I think he's showing off his range right now. So when we see him in that 200, maybe that's that sweet spot. I don't know. That's why I have him ahead of Curly currently.
I have Noah, Arian Knighton. I have Lindsay 3. Fred Curly 4. Kenny B 5 right now. Again, lots of reshuffling.
Hey, all in the game is with me. Kenny is better than Curly in the 200.
He's saying Fred Curly's not a 200-meter guy. I don't know about that.
Fred Curly.
I don't know about that.
Don't get me started on Fred. This guy can do it all. 100, 200, 4. He did the 4 at A&M, dropping down to the 1. He can do the 2.
Hot take. Maybe.
Don't make me
talked
walk
about
out of the
this before.
studio right
No,
now.
you're
Don't
not
make me walk out of the studio.
So obviously, we know what he did at A&M. He was a 400 guy. Now he's gone down to the 100 and the 200. Yeah. Dare I say that this is the year he should have gone up and tried for the 400. The 400 is so wide open, I feel like, on the men's side in the U.S.
I'm right there with you, which is why I'm like, Tobogo should... We talked about this. I'm like, Tobogo should just run the 4 at the Olympics.
Well, I'm talking specifically on the American side, though. Like, I mean, there's no one I feel like that's really emerged as the guy. And we know Curly's history in the 400.
So if you think about just athletics in general, though, it's not about choosing like, the best option. It's what you believe in yourself that you can compete at. It's like, it's like conversation of, should you go into a game and lose it because it's a better like position for you if you go out and you face somebody else. Like, you're not thinking about losing. You're not thinking about like doing something else because that's stacked. You're thinking about what's best for you.
I think the 400 is going to help Tobogo at the end of the day. It's going to make him stronger.
But Curly is...
We're talking about Curly.
I know. For Fred, he's just a wild card. He can do... I feel like he can do anything. Like, he is strong in the 4. He has the speed for the 1 and the 2. It's just that 100 and that 200, there's like the top 2 spots are kind of solidified almost, give or take if something were to happen. It's just tighter.
I think it'll just be, I don't know. We'll just keep continuing how the season unfolds. It's only the season opener in Xiamen, so we still got some time to see some things shake out.
Very, very true. Very true. All right, I want to shift gears. I want to talk about this marathon because we saw a world record go down here. Paris Chepchirchir breaks the women-only world record, and what we saw was something very special because this was completely a loaded field across the board. Just you have athletes like Asefa Chipnagech and just so many other names also competing for this title. But I know you two were up at the crack of dawn. What was something that really stood out to you about Chepchirchir's race?
Well, I think for me, the London Marathon, like you mentioned, it was loaded with some of the top marathoners, not just right now on the women's side, but, and kind of in world history. If you're looking at it, you have the world record holder Tigisa Sefa in this race, and then Olympic champion Paris Chepchirchir. Like, I think for me, what stood out is, and you don't see, it's interesting to see how marathons play out, right? Like I think the emphasis you always hear the emphasis going into marathon training is like, you gotta you got to build the endurance, right? You got to build that aerobic and anaerobic fitness to hold for such a long time. But the fact of the matter is you still got to have a kick at the end, because this is exactly how this race turned out. It turned into a sprint to the finish over the 800 meters, the final 800. It was between Pistachios, Asefa, Jepkoskai, and Alemu, and they were all sprinting over that final 800. And it was Pistachios who had more left in the tank to take the win. She runs 2:16.16 for a women's only world record. And I think that's what really stood out to me, at least on the women's side, is like, yeah, you can be able to like hold it for, you can run for 26.2 miles, but there still is that importance of having a little bit of a kick.
Yes. I love how you said sprinting, like literally sprinting. I cannot imagine sprinting after running 26 miles. There's no way.
I'm just saying the best of the best have to have that, that extra gear that you can tap into if a race turns out that way, which, if we're being realistic, like that's how, if you look at some of the past major marathons, especially on the women's side, a lot of them have turned into really fast races, at least over the last like 5 miles or even less than that. Like I think back to when we were in New York City for the New York City Marathon, it was a sprint to the finish between Helen Obiri and, Sharon Lokedi, a lot of those athletes. And then Boston, we see Helen Obiri kind of pull away toward the end too. So yeah. I think that like, especially on the women's side, that's turning into more, that's kind of how a lot of these majors have been playing out recently.
Yeah, Obiri had I believe it was a 4:41 last mile in the Boston Marathon, which would have been faster than Chrissy Gear's mile win on Saturday.
That is insane to think about.
Yeah. I think a little bit of it, this was like a tactical mistake from Asefa, like waiting that long to, just keep Jepkirchir in the mix. Like you have to be able to sort of make a move a little earlier and kind of pull away. I just don't think she had like that gear, and that's one of the reasons why it got away from her.
Yeah, I just think, just reflecting on the last marathons that I've seen, New York City with you, Ashley, Boston with Corey, like the women's race is very tactical from the start. Like we've seen them run in packs. The men are doing a completely different thing. But for the ladies, I kind of agree with you, Corey, there with Asefa, just waiting a little bit too long to make that move, because the speed that Paris had, goodness gracious, like once she dropped the hammer, there was no looking back. And it was very obvious that that's when she was wanting to make her move. She just like took off. I remember watching her come around one of those turns and she was gone. No one could respond. And so when you have the speed like Paris in those final few moments of those races, you have to be able to stick up with her.
Yeah. And so now I think for me, my question here after this, and I want y'all's opinions too, is I think now we come into this debate where, the next big marathon is the Olympic marathon.
Yeah.
Paris Jepkirchir's the defending champion. A lot of people are saying Helen Obiri may be the favorite going into the Olympics because of what we've seen from her from Boston 2 years in a row and at New York City. Like, in your all's mind, like, who do you think now, like, has the upper hand, like, when we see them hopefully go head-to-head?
I love how you asked me that question. Just seeing Helen compete in Boston, she had competition up until the last few moments of that race. I feel like if Helen and Paris are together in those final moments, I'm going to pick Helen because she's used to having just that pressure on her and be able to make moves and be able to hold on to that speed and that endurance toward the later stages of that race. So I'm going to pick Helen for this one.
I mean, 2:16's pretty fast.
That is very fast.
Right. And looking at Obiri's marathon progression right now, 2:25, 2:27. I know she's like very good and like tactically she can compete with anybody, but I mean, there's sort of a time disparity between the two. And I wonder if that will make an impact in the Olympic.
I guess it's also another thing to think about too, is that, I've heard, the Paris Marathon course is going to be very similar to stuff like New York City and Boston, where you have rolling hills, you have uphills, you have downhills. So, I mean, maybe that plays into Helen's favor since she's done so well on those types of marathon courses. But then again, like you said, you have Paris, she's won on the Olympic stage before, she's won on the world stage before as well, world champs. And it's going to be interesting. And again, like as you said, like she's gone 2:16. So.
Yeah. And I think also, just to put this in perspective, you've helped me to learn, again, sprinter here talking about distance running, but you've helped me to understand that in different moments of racing, like you're going to see a tactical race and then you're going to see a race that's kind of the intentions of going fast. When I think about London, just knowing that the field, the headline going into London was, we're going to see something fast. And I think the ladies definitely leveled up to that expectation. But when we're at the Olympics, honey, it's gold on the line.
Yeah,
I can care less about running 2:30, 216, 220. I just want the gold medal, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I could see it being more tactical at the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
It's going to be fast.
It'll be Paris in August. It'll be pretty warm probably. Yeah. And again, like I think from what I've seen about the course, it's not pancake flat at all. So
yeah. Rolling hills. So I'm still sticking with my girl Helen.
Okay. I don't know if I have a prediction yet. I'm still
How are you going to ask us? Wait, no, you have to answer. So you say Paris.
I say Paris. I say, interesting. Let's go with an American. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't have a pick at this point. I mean, I think it can vary depending on the day.
Okay. I'll
say Paris. Chip cheer for now.
Okay. We will have predictions later on as we get closer. All right. Also, we have to talk about Bekele. Lowers the men's Masters record. It is crazy to think about how he shaved 5 seconds off his Masters world record from the Valencia Marathon in 2023. 2:04 at the age of 41. That is insane.
It is insane. But then when you look at this guy, like it's almost like no surprise because this guy has been like, I think one could argue that he's probably one of the best in world history in terms of finding success at so many different levels of distance running in the sport. Like if you look at his history, he's won Olympic gold medals in the 10K in 2004 and 2008. He won gold in the 5K as well in 2008 and silver in 2004. He's a multi-time world cross-country champion. And then he's won the Berlin Marathon twice as well. I mean, this guy he's done it all, anything you could ever think of in distance running, you know? Like he's done it on the track, he's done it on the roads, he's done it on the cross-country course. So to me, it's really not that surprising, even though, granted, yes, he's 41 years old, but I mean, he's still among the best of the world regardless of age.
I'm just thinking about Usain Bolt and like being a sprinter. Again, it's completely different, but just seeing Usain Bolt going after like master sprints like that, to be able to withstand that level of training and competition year after year after year is just remarkable to even think about. Like how much effort that Bekele has just been putting in over the last several years to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing here too, like, I mean, he runs 2:04.15 for the Masters World Record, but he also finishes second overall. It was Alexander Mutisa Munyao who won in 2:04.01, so he was only 14 seconds off of that win there. I think afterwards he was almost disappointed in himself because he didn't win that race because he was in contention for so long until, Alex was able to pull away there over the final, probably like 2 miles or so, I would say. But gosh, again, I think for me, now you see this. Now it's like, okay, does Ethiopia select him to make for their Olympic team?
You reading the chat?
No, I'm just talking out loud here. I have my notes up. I don't even look
that was in the chat, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think that is a question, right? Because we all know how Ethiopia's completely loaded. You think of people like Tamarat Tola, who won the New York City Marathon. He dropped out of this marathon here, but you would think that maybe he would be considered. I mean, we all know Ethiopia's loaded when it comes to that marathon distance, especially there on that men's side. So, yeah, like, do you think Bekele has done enough to get selected here?
Yes.
That's my question.
I say yes.
You say yes?
So 5 men right now are kind of like in the mix, and Sisaleme has run the fastest of Ethiopian men over 23 and 24. Bekele is 5th fastest of that group and includes Bekele, Darisa Galata, and Dawit Wold, who is, I think, at London, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on how they view that and how they're going to stack rank those talents. I think what's been written basically is that Lemma is probably a lock to be on that team.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you don't take the 41-year-old. Like, it's great. It's great press. It's great. Honestly, beside everything else, like, I mean, you want guys who are capable, but like, honestly, giving, a person who's been there so many times, that creates so much promotion and press, and the marketing dynamic of it, like, helps you.
And also, like, too, I think, like, I mean, it's not like this guy's just 41 and just like out there running without any winning experience, right? Like this guy has won Olympic gold medals. I mean, he's won major marathons. He's won world cross championships. Like he knows how to win on the world stage. And so like, why not throw in a guy like that who, in a race that could, may not be like a 2:01 quarter race. It could be, more of a tactical 2:05 sort of race of the Olympics, considering what the conditions in the course may be like in Paris, like, I think he's someone that could be in the mix there.
Yeah. Chat guy, what is the chat saying about
Anything
Bekele
at all?
potentially making the Ethiopian?
Well, they're asking us, how do you feel like, will he
I
make
want yes.
the team after his London performance kind of stacked up?
I'll say I hope so.
I hope
Sure.
so too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want that.
You want
I want
that.
that for him. I love how you said for press. That's great too.
Well, that's a dynamic that like the U.S. leans into sometimes in other like areas, Olympic
Yeah.
areas. Like I remember, the one year where we had like a 40-year-old swimmer. I mean, she qualified, but it's like that took out a lot of sort of the promotion of the U.S. team. It was like her story.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a part of it. When you try to get people sort of engaged in the Olympic, stage, you do have to have those storylines.
Yeah. Very, very true. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully he moves up.
Either way, this guy's the GOAT. Like,
He literally is the GOAT.
Yes.
GOAT emoji is accepted here. All right, let's move on and talk a little bit of Mount SAC. Here we also saw two amazing records fall down. We saw Sadie Engelhart hits a U.S. outdoor mile record. And of course, we had some pros shake some things up there. So, Ashley, let's talk about Sadie really quick and what she did over this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Sadie Engelhart, the NC State commit, I know we've had her on this show before, of Ventura in California. She runs a U.S. high school national outdoor record, 4:31 there, which to me, honestly, like, I'm not super surprised,
Yeah.
Like, I think for a while, and she said this on our show before too, like, Engelhart, this year specifically, I think she's had, that mile record on her mind, not just the outdoor one. I know she's also been aiming for the overall one, Mary Kane's 4:28, which was clocked at Millrose Games indoors. So I'm not really surprised. She's been in that 4:34 to like 4:38 range for such a long time. And I know we've talked about this before. Sadie's a gamer, and when she sets goals, she really strives to set them. And I think it was really just a matter of time before she broke Tui's outdoor record. So kudos to her. Like, I think, we got to give kudos to that for sure.
You said something very key. It was a matter of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I think just knowing and following Sadie since she was during her AAU days, before she even entered high school, we knew she was going to be someone special. And she's been very vocal, at least to us here, that this was something that she was striving for. She's been wanting to break this mile outdoor record for such a long time, and it finally just clicked. Which was super amazing. And on top of that, she was able to break another national high school record with her team in the DMR. Ventura High School goes 11:21:85, taking down an amazing, impressive record there. So she was able to do it individually, but also with her team, which I thought was just incredible. Corey, any thoughts on Sadie?
Yeah, I agree. Sadie has been a talent that has been in the mix for a long time coming. That's not always guaranteed of high school girls running, but she has proven that she's been so consistent. Looking at her mile time in the context of the world right now, number 56, number 22nd fastest American time for the mile. And then when you look at a 1,500 meter performance from the 10, number 21 ranked American. So it's not like, she's right where I think she needs to be.
Yeah.
At this level, she's 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to grow from this experience for her.
I agree. Just kind of opening up for more conversation, I had a chance to kind of dive into like some of the professional athletes that were also kicking off their season too. I was really impressed by Kyrie King and Terrence Laird. Terrence Laird has been that guy that we saw him compete at LSU, and I feel like he's starting to get his wheels turning again. He finished second in the 200 with a 20:26. King grabs the title there, 20:11. Rai Benjamin, 44:42 for the win.
Yep.
Solid efforts. And of course, Coach Flo knows, right? The girls decided to go and compete in the 200 meters, including Julian Alfred, who went 22:58, Rashida Adeleke, 22:61, and our girl Dina Asher-Smith, 22:80.
Yep.
In that 200 meters, looking very, very strong. But I was also impressed with the 4x1s. We saw the Texas crew, they're known as Team International, versus Formula Kersey in that 4x1 final. And including Dina Asher-Smith, Rashida Adeleke, Lene Tava-Thomas, and Julian Alfred. They win that 400 meters with a 42:03. But then you also had Sydney McLaughlin running On the Formula Kersey 4x1 that finished second with Kenny Harrison, Janet Pranditi, and Moralike Kinnison. So getting some speed work there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I finished-
Finally, we see Sydney coming out to run.
Yes. I had a chance earlier this month, or it might have been last month. I actually pre-ordered her book, which got delivered last year. And I was like, oh, wait, I probably should read this ahead of the Olympic Games. And just reading her book was just incredible. And now it makes me even more excited to see what she can do going into the games this year. So great times.
I thought a 4x1 was an interesting opener, though. I don't know.
What were you thinking? Like a two?
Can she
Like
run
100?
Can she run a 4x4 or something like that? You know, come on, that's what I want to see.
I think, yeah, the one big conversation point with her is that, we don't feel like, we don't see her often enough.
Yeah.
Competing. So then you come out here, you do a 4x1, you're not really seeing her compete.
Yeah.
You are. But it's just,
different. It's different.
You have to be aware of it, I guess. I mean, I think she'll be ready. I think she competes when she targets certain things. It's just the way the coaching and her strategy is.
Exactly. I'm just excited to see her out on the track, honestly. I was just kind of waiting. I didn't care what event it was. It could have been the Open 100. It could have been a mile. I know she would never do that. But
I would have loved to see an Open 100 personally, but a 4x1's different.
4x1 is very different.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It's with that team bonding. But overall, she's out on the track, which is great news for all of us. All right. Let's talk about another superstar in the making. 17-year-old Christian Miller breaks a U.S. U20 record in the 100. I think the biggest storyline is it's at the same track, the same meet that Asama Singha beat Noah Lyles. But the fact that Christian Miller, this guy from Florida, broke Trayvon Brumel's 997 record from 2014. And this kid goes 993, wind legal in Florida. Fastest time in the world as a high schooler right now, end of April.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, that's shocking. I think it's shocking in the fact that I think it's 993 and it's a world lead. I think that's the shocking part. Maybe not as shocking that it's Christian Miller of all the high school kids that did it, because I think for a while, we've seen him go sub 10:10, but I think a couple times in the 100 last year. But gosh, it makes me wonder, what's going on at the Pure Athletics Spring Invitational? What is
happening?
Last year at this meet, this is where Asama Singha beat Noah Lyles in the 100.
Yeah.
And now you see Christian Miller. Maybe he was like, oh, Sam beat Noah here. That's the meet I got to go to next year to have my breakthrough, But I've seen some interviews he's done. I think even he was shocked by the time. I don't even think he was expecting to run 993. And I think the other surprising thing, or just to wrap my head around, right? Mm-hmm. Again, this is a world lead.
Yeah.
And you think about the people that have opened up and stuff like that. You have, Coleman, Fred Curley, Noah Lyles, all those guys have already ran 100 this season.
Yeah.
Sure, they're opening up, but and he's been going for a little bit, but still. And then it makes you wonder, okay, you got to look ahead to the trials. Could this?
Yes.
Selfishly,
I was waiting for Ashley.
I would love for the plot, just for the plot, that Christian Miller goes out there and does something spectacular at the trials and shocks the world, right? But you got to think about that a little bit too, a little bit.
It's just I'm just looking at his profile, because he didn't compete during indoor at all. So he essentially, the only other meets he's competed in have been Bob Hayes, where he went 20.51, 21.07. Florida Relays, he had a wind dated 10.14. He ran the 400 beginning of March, 47.63. That is it. That's all that he has done. So the fact that this kid pops off with a 993, number 3 all time for U20 behind Asama Singha's 989, and then Tobogo went 991 in 2022. So I'm not surprised that it's Christian Miller, because I think I said this to you guys, and I think I've said it on the show before. After seeing what he did at the USA U20 championships last year, I was like, ooh, this kid is ready. And I think you asked him too, Corey, if he thought about breaking records going into this year. And he's like, you know what? Here we are. We're just going to do it, So to actually see him kind of put that together in April, it's kind of scary to think about. Corey, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I'm a huge Christian Miller fan.
Yeah.
I think he's really capable of pretty much anything he sets his mind to. And, I thought this was an extraordinary performance. It's now the fastest Florida performance in history on Florida soil. Jalen Slade held that previously. All the other times that have been recorded were recorded outside the state, so he gets that honor. I think he's got all the things coming from trials. Will he get through? That's another story, but I don't think he needs to. I don't think we need to put him on the Olympic team, but maybe put him in that experience because he's got University of Georgia coming up, and I think, Carroll Smith, Gilbert, and co. will train him quite well there. My question, since pure athletics has become a track in Florida where high schoolers go now, who's the next one going to pure athletics in 2025?
It has to be a junior.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got a few options. I have it up here.
Yeah.
Kai Evans of Lake Mineola, 400-meter hurdler, 10.49 right now. We also have Avian Edwards-Pla of IMG Academy, 10.62. We have a sophomore, Kaj Baker from Somerset Academy. He's really, really good. He's run 10.63, but no one's really in that 10.2 range right now.
Oh, wait, no. Wrong
So who's
bet.
the next guy up? Maybe TBD?
TBD.
Maybe-
My brain went to the 200
Maybe TBD.
just now.
I wonder too now, so obviously we've seen Florida guys go here. Do people now from out of state come?
That's what I was thinking.
Thoughts?
It's so random. Why would you want to run there? There's no stands.
Because now
Because
you
you
see all
just-
these guys running fast.
Exactly.
That-
Exactly.
That's like going to hey, I'm going to fly 2,000 miles to go to a dual meet.
No, here I got one. Here's a hypothetical. Georgia, Maurice Gleaton.
Yes.
He's a junior. He's gone 10-2-4.
I just don't see the reason to fly there for that.
But even in Georgia, you could drive.
A long drive to Claremont.
I'm just saying, you never know. Why not? This is the place that seems
Just
like
so
to
we
break
can have the
records.
third guy in a row.
yes.
Break 10.
You never
Hey,
know.
kids would do anything for a T-shirt, so it's like,
For a T-shirt.
just go to a national meet. They want a T-shirt, backpack, something. If they're like, hey, we're gonna go to Florida and we're gonna run a really fast 100.
So
Mom
you
and
think
Dad, sign
Pure
me
Athletics should
up.
capitalize off this? They should put some
should.
marketing money behind it.
If they're being smart about it, they should.
Yes.
You market it as this is the place you set records.
Think about running lane cross country championships. Come on.
True.
It's just like that. You're gonna fly all the way to Huntsville.
There's
Run a really
3,000
fast-
people running in a cross-country championship. What were there, 100
We can
people
make
at
this
Pure
meet-
Athletics
we can
this
make
weekend?
we can make this meet pop off. The kids want fast times. Back to back? Come on.
So I'm looking at the chat here. Someone did bring up a point that they think Miller can make the relay pool if he can hold this shape. Think
Ooh.
about that. If he doesn't make the individual, he can make the relay pool.
You'd have to make a final.
True. But
And again, there's rounds. We
never
do,
know.
you know.
Never know.
You
Never know.
You never know.
Mia finished 7th
Yeah,
last year.
yes,
She didn't-
exactly. Yep.
She went to 23s though. She didn't go to. They didn't pick her for the senior.
Yeah. Now, if she would have finished 6th, then she would have been in that pool.
Yeah.
So just gotta get top 6, and it's easier said than done. I'm like, yes,
Do
you
they
get top
have?
6.
Do they have to go 6 though?
Typically, it's the top 6
Okay.
because it's typically they think first 3 are gonna be running individually. The
Well,
next-
that's
Obvi-
varied
yes,
before, right?
That's a whole nother conversation. That
Yeah, that's
they
a whole nother
move
drama.
people around. Yes,
Drama.
But typically on paper, top 6 relay pool.
On paper.
On key thing on paper there. All right, let's talk about Penn Relays now. I am super stoked, as I mentioned to kick off the show. Let's talk about some one-on-one matchups here. We're gonna have it across the board from the individual races and also field events as well. The relays. Ashley, what is that one race matchup that you're looking forward to in Philly?
Well, I kind of cheated here. I
I
know we
saw.
said it was 1v1, but I took a race where it's more of 1v1v1v1. There's 4 teams that are in this race, and I want to talk about the college women's DMR. I think that distance medley relay could be something really intriguing. It may come down to the final anchor because you're going to have just 4 really strong teams in this field. You're going to have Providence, Virginia, Harvard, and Washington, and these are ones that really stand out to me as potential winners. If you look at Providence, they won the 4x1500 meter last year. They have Kimberly May as their anchor listed here, and we know she in the indoor season she proved she ran an all-time, I think a top 10 all-time mark in the NCAA in the indoor mile. So we know she has that speed there. You know, you have Virginia as well. They always have a strong distance contingent, and I know Margot Appleton she's really their star there, and she's going to be on that opening leg, I believe, of the 1200 there. Then you have Harvard, where you have Sophia Gorgeron, who you'll likely see stuck there in that 800-meter leg. She was one of the fastest freshmen in the country indoors at the 800. Plus, they'll have Maya Romsden anchoring at home in the 1600. So, she's a good closer there. The NCAA champ in the indoor mile. And then Washington, they set the all dates, all conditions collegiate DMR record indoors this season at BU. They ran 10:43:39. That's faster than the outdoor record in the DMR. And Providence is also just behind them at collegiate number 2 all time in the DMR. So goodness, I feel like I just looked off so many stats, but it's I think that's going to be really intriguing to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I like the pick of the DMR. Of course, I'm going to stick to the sprint side. Thinking about the college men's 4x2, you have to get front row seats for this event. We're going to see GC Foster of Jamaica versus Houston. We saw this last year. GC Foster are the defending champions in this event. They went 123.20, and Houston won this title back in 2019, and they also won it in 2017. I know Ashley found this incredible photo of Houston and GC Foster kind of battling out there in the 100 meters with Sean there just staring down GC Foster here. And, Houston has the fastest time right now actually in the world with a 1:21:55, which they ran at Texas Relays. So you already know the Cougars, if Julio's listening to this, is probably super excited that I'm mentioning this. But the fact that, we might be able to see pretty much another showdown. This photo is from the 4x1, but I think we might see something similar
I'm just
in the 4x2.
saying, Houston doesn't come to play.
They don't come to
play, especially in those relays.
Exactly. Corey, any thoughts from you?
I don't know if there's necessarily a one-on-one matchup here in the 10K, but I'm interested in see Kelsey Camille from NC State run the 10K that first night. She's obviously a superstar with the Wolfpack, and she's run 33:14 last year at NCAA's, finished there in the 8th in the 10K. I think she's capable of dropping that time. I think this is her outdoor opener as well. And you always have to keep in mind that U.S. Olympic standard of 31:30. So you got Kelsey Camille here. You got Maggie Donahue of Georgetown in the mix too. So going to be very competitive. And it ends the night on Thursday. I know last year,
downpour
pouring.
Oh, I remember
pouring
that.
rain.
Yep.
Hey, but we got great forecast set for Philadelphia this weekend.
The sun is going to be out, 60s, no chance of rain as of right now. I packed an umbrella just in case, but I hopefully won't have to pull it out for anything.
Hopefully not.
I don't want to, because that was rough. It's still my pink umbrella that almost flapped away.
I mean, it made it
3K.
The rain made it memorable last year, but at least I think this year maybe we'll be treated to some more exciting performances because weather may not be as much of a factor.
Yeah. I think we can all thank Ashley Tishins for taking it on for the team. You went to Stanford, downpour rain. You texted me saying it gave you Penn Relay vibes. So you took that for the team, so all of us can enjoy lovely weather.
Yes, I endured the downpour at the Stanford Invitational earlier this month, a month ago. So now we can be treated to some lovely weather at Penn. You're welcome.
We appreciate that. All right, before we end the show, there's going to be a couple of Olympic development individual races as well. So let's go ahead and talk about our favorite event that we're looking forward to watching. And I think both of you guys are on the same wavelength here.
I think we are.
Some speed. Love it.
I think the men's 400 is going to be really interesting because if you look, you have some of the top Americans who I think are, have very legit shots of making that Olympic team later on in the 400. You're going to have Bryce Deadman, Ryan Willey, Ja'Cory Patterson, Will London. Plus, you'll have plenty of other strong competitors outside of the U.S. I think of Ja'Cory Patterson from Barbados, formerly of University of Texas in this race as well. So, and at an event like Penn, too, I think, these men could really push the pace and throw down, sub 45 marks. I think we could see stuff 40 points. And, especially for these guys, I think this is a chance especially a lot of these Americans it's almost like a simulation of what's to come, maybe at the trials and the rounds where you're facing head to head and just trying to get through and, run something fast.
I'm excited to see Bryce Deadman and Will London. Huge fan of Will London.
Yes.
By the way. Corey, why are you looking forward to the 400?
It's 400. It's fast. It's great. I think outside of that too, women's high jump.
Yes.
Vashti Cunningham.
awesome. I'm excited for that.
First time since 2017, she'll be back at the Penn Relays, and she's the best women's high jumper. I mean, I don't know ever. She doesn't have the American record, does she? Right?
She does.
She does?
think.
Okay.
I believe so.
Well,
I don't want to say that and be wrong, though.
Yeah.
but Vashti back at the Penn Relays, I think, is going to be a sight to hold.
I like that too. All right. Kind of have a little bit of speed with my pick here. I'm looking forward to the women's 800 meters because there's 3 names that stand out to me the most. Ajay Wilson. She is like, if I was to pick anybody to be the queen of Penn, I'm going to pick Ajay Wilson. This woman has, just going back, I had to like look at her world athletics because I was like, I'm pretty sure she probably ran Penn Relays when she was in high school. Like, this woman has been going to Penn since 2014 and has been in different events from the 600 to the 800. And I believe she was also on a relay too for another year. But Ajay just, when I think of Penn, I think of Ajay Wilson, to be honest with you. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what she does here as she starts to get her wheels turning for the season. Charlene Lipsey. I have had the wonderful privilege of just watching her compete when she was an LSU Tiger, and she's gone 159.26 last year. She made her first and only world team back in 2017, so I know she's starting to get ready for making it another Olympic year and hopefully carrying that momentum that she's going to get from Penn to the rest of the season. But, of course, our girl, Olivia Baker. She has just been having the season. We saw her compete many times during the indoor season. She's been just consistently running 203s. I think she knocked it down to a 201. She was 5th at the USA Indoor Championships, and she's just gaining so much experience. And so I'm looking forward to seeing these 3 ladies in particular from America really step onto the track and compete. I think Aaliyah Miller with On is going to be there too. So it's going to be an exciting field for sure.
Very exciting.
Very exciting field. All right, before we let you go, Ashley has a little teaser because this is, Penn Relays is like a huge meet for this weekend, but there's also some other things going on too.
Yes, obviously we'll have Penn Relays live on FloTrack, but also live on FloTrack, we're going to have the Peyton Jordan Invitational out there in Stanford. You're going to have some really strong distance races, I think. Like typically this is where you see, teams go after it and individuals go after it, getting those regional qualifying marks for NCAAs, anywhere from the 800 all the way up to the 10K. So I think that's going to be really exciting. That's going to be live on FloTrack Friday evening. So be sure to tune in for that. But then also we're going to be live. I know we have this graphic up. This is going to be a big announcement here. The FloTrack podcast, we're going to be live at the Penn Relays.
Yes!
And I know we're all super excited about this. It's going to be the FloTrack podcast presented by Wonderful Pistachios live at the On Athletics Hub. And it's going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a little show, talk about, some of the top storylines, heading into Penn Relays. And then we're going to interview some special guests from On as well. Thursday, we're going to have a special mystery guest. Mm-hmm. Friday, we're going to have a combo podcast with the Coffee Club crew, the Coffee Club podcast, which I'm really excited about. And we're going to interview Yard Goose and Sage Herder Klecker. And then Saturday, we'll be able to chat with Joe Klecker. So I know we're all super excited. We're going to have a setup there at the On Athletics Hub at Penn Relays, which is going to be awesome. So not only will you be able to watch the podcast, after it's done online, but you'll be able to, if you're there in person, come say, hey, come watch. We may try to interact with the crowd. I know we have Chat Guy here, so maybe we'll be trying to go in the crowd.
I think we nixed that idea.
Well,
either way, it's cool. And not all 3 of us are going to be there, though.
Hey, got to pick up our bags of coffee.
Yes.
We got to pick up our coffee. Give a gift to our guys from,
Coffee Club. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for sure.
It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Super excited.
Yes.
Super excited. All right, y'all. Any last minute thoughts? Where we say bye to our fans and see them in Philly.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Awesome. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's podcast of the FloTrack podcast presented by Wonderful Pistachios. Ashley Tishins, Corey Mall, and myself. We're looking forward to seeing you guys in Philadelphia. So come say hi. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you again next week.